Welcome to EVTN News. I hope you're having a great day. I'm here to make your day miserable by reading the news. Maybe, I don't know. Hopefully you can get some laughs out of this stuff. I mean, it's pretty terrible, but yeah, hopefully you don't take yourself too seriously. Anyway, confirmation retreat in Switzerland. I don't know that I'd call it a retreat, but it's a so-called Catholic youth ministry in the Diocese of Zurich, Switzerland. They offer sweat rituals for confirmation and youth groups. The person responsible, Adrian Marbacher, 46 years old, explains he has a great interest in shamanic rituals, like a shaman. Anyway, the sweating ritual originated in this area and marks the transition from child to adult. A hut is built out of branches and woolen blankets. Stones heated in fire are used to create sauna temperatures. And then the confirmands, the people that are approaching confirmation and their facilitator enter the hot, cramped, dark hut. Marbacher explains this as a sauna for ritual purposes. The confirmands wear bathing costumes and are wrapped in a cloth. Marbacher says, in the classic ritual, you are only clad in a cloth. Afterwards, questions are asked such as, what am I burning for? Where do I feel the Holy Spirit? What gives me support? Each young person gives an answer. The others respond with Amen. The exercise lasts 40 minutes, so it sounds actually demonic. So that's what's going on in Switzerland. And really, if you're a parent, you should not let this creep anywhere near your child. And if you do, you're a pretty terrible parent. Who am I to judge? Phil Lawler says, he said a few days ago, yesterday's news included the curious report that two different cases, one in Ireland, one in Wales, Pope Francis had appointed one bishop to head two separate dioceses. In each case, we were told the dioceses will remain. Over at the Pillar, Ed Condon wonders whether this could be the beginning of a trend in the face of declining numbers of clergy and mass-going Catholics. We have already seen several rounds of diocesan restructuring campaigns in which parishes are merged into pastoral cooperatives with one pastor responsible for two or more churches. The arrangement is far from ideal. The priest is forced to jump from one town to another, and parishioners have to keep track of his movements if they want to know where the Mass will be celebrated on a given day. But it beats never having Mass celebrated in the local parish. A part-time priest is better than no priest at all. So Father Z says, Lawler also talks about the issue of spiritual fatherhood. Can a bishop be a spiritual father to more than one diocese? Presbyterate? Lawler also brings up the fact that with the ever-declining number of available priests, by merging parishes, at least those places remain unsold and open for Mass once in a while, which is better than never. Hence, when the great springtime finally arrives and the seminaries overflow, those places can be resuscitated and separated again. Of course, if bishops stopped persecuting, marginalizing, and ignoring traditional Catholics and instead embraced tradition and all that it entails, they would soon have more seminarians than they knew what to do with. And that will be the case, and hopefully, sooner rather than later, the traditionalists will take over these vacant parishes, but for now, I would imagine many of them will be sold. And even if you're looking at the SSPX, they can't find parishes. And so, I, I don't know. What do you think? What would be better? Would you rather have a very modern church structure given to you? See, like any traditionalist group, FSSP, SSPX, whatever. Would they like? Would they rather have a modern church building given to them, or would they rather have to raise the funds to build a Catholic church or a church that looks Catholic? Because a lot of these modern-looking churches just look like art museums, and if they're sold to some kind of modern art cooperative organization, then it would probably fit very well. I don't know. We'll see. So Father Z also posted a letter someone wrote him about Cardinal Gregory and his potential crackdown on the Latin Mass. So it said, Dear Father Z, Your posting about our parish slightly mischaracterizes what was said at Mass today about Cardinal Gregory's thoughts about the extraordinary form Mass at our parish. If you review the Facebook video of this morning's extraordinary form Mass, you will see that what was announced was this. The Cardinal will make a determination after the synod meetings in May. I ask our people to pray for the good of the parish and reminded them that they always have the right to communicate with their spiritual father. I did not suggest that he had made up his mind, nor did I suggest he'd speak on the matter in May. But what this means is Cardinal Gregory is considering shutting down another Latin Mass, and when really no other bishops are not really moving on this anymore. It seems like, well, I mean, I don't know if let me just check and see. I have something more on that later. So let's actually move on to the next topic. No ordinations in Detroit. Oh, well, there we go. Can you sense a theme? Potential cancellations of Latin Mass parishes. No ordinations. Oh, wow. During the Chrism Mass celebrated at the Cathedral of Most Blessed Sacrament on April 14th, Detroit Archbishop Alan Vigneron announced that the Archdiocese of Detroit will begin a year of prayer for priestly vocations, starting with the Holy Hour on the Vigil on Pentecost, June 4th, and ending on the Solemnity of Pentecost, 2023. This year of prayer is a response to the fact that for the first time in at least 70 years, there will be no priestly ordinations in the Archdiocese of Detroit this year. The Detroit Catholic online news outlet of the Archdiocese of Detroit could not verify records before that time. So this is the first time since the Archdiocese of Detroit was founded, basically, that there are no ordinations. Wow, that's not good. And I also noticed a trend that more men are entering religious communities than they are joining the diocesan priesthood. And it's not even close. So that's an interesting trend because they don't want to. I don't know if they don't want to join a diocese. I wouldn't. I mean, who would? Who really would? And if you're forced to say the Novus Ordo, oh well, we can't talk about that, right? Let's talk about a Eucharistic revival instead. The USCCB has formed a special team of priests to send out on a mission of vital importance to the Church and to the nation. 60 Eucharistic preachers will form the front line of the Church's Eucharistic Revival, a 3 years grassroots initiative aimed at increasing devotion and belief in the real presence of Jesus in the Eucharist. I have no idea what they're planning on doing. I don't know if they're planning on doing like social media stuff or whatever. But if you get a chance, take a look at the 60 priests. I recognized a few. I think I actually met one of them years ago, and I know nothing about him. I met him. That's all. But it was pretty interesting. I was like, I recognize that name, and I'm like, oh, I think I actually met him in person. Cool. Okay, whatever. Anyway, I don't know if any of these these are the 60 Eucharistic stars that the USCCB has selected. Some of them are kind of celebrity priests. I noticed a few Jesuits, but one was Father Robert Spitzer, S.J., and I thought, where did I hear that name? I think he's been on EWTN. And EWTN, I think they're pretty selective with the Jesuits that they have on there. Let's just say that. So I don't think he's necessarily one of the bad Jesuits, which is saying something, because there are very few Jesuits who I'd actually consider good. I don't know what his ideas are. I don't know. But if he was on EWTN, then maybe he's decent. But I think a lot of the priests, it look like most of these priests are in their late 40s, early 50s, so very specific age range. And I don't know what they're planning on doing, but I'll tell you one thing that would actually work is if the USCCB had an initiative to rebuild altar rails, and I guess they could encourage everyone. I would say require, but you know, who am I? I'm rigid. I'm rigid, so they wouldn't listen to me. But at least encourage people to receive communion kneeling and on the tongue, and not from a Eucharistic minister, or even a deacon. Women Religious Synodal Meeting with. So this was reported from the Catholic Sun. With prayer and laughter, songs and furrowed brows, more than 500 superiors of women's religious orders from around the world gathered in Rome to talk about the challenges they face and the gift those challenges represent for their congregations, the Catholic Church, and the world. Is it really a gift to have declining numbers? Anyway, wearing a sari or bright batik skirt or long black habit or slacks. Members of the International Union of Superiors General were meeting May 2nd to 6th and exploring the theme Embracing Vulnerability on the Synodal Journey. Well, that last paragraph is exactly why they're in the situation that they're in. It's exactly why the number of women religious have been cut not in half, but to a quarter of what it was before Vatican II. And also, it says some of these women were wearing slacks. Okay, so so you're a women religious and you're wearing slacks. That is probably why you've lost so many numbers. But do you really want to embrace vulnerability on the synodal journey? And as long as you're going to see a gift of the challenge of recruiting, as long as you see the declining numbers as a gift, then I think you're headed in the wrong direction. They've been doing that for the last 50 years. So they know what they're good at it. Catholic News Service. This is actually a huge news story. This is really significant. Catholic News Service is closing. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops announced to staff May 4th at a dramatic reorganization of its communications department, including the closure of the Washington and New York offices of Catholic News Service. So this was a propaganda wing for the USCCB, and they're no longer going to have it. And that's really significant because I don't think anyone really likes the USCCB. The Catholics don't, and the heretics, they don't really like the USCCB either. A statement released by the Bishop's Public Affairs Office said, over the next few months, the USCCB Department of Communications will undertake a significant realignment to better utilize the resources to the conference by the faithful in a manner that fits the communications environment today. Staff reductions will also be taking place in public affairs, creative services, and marketing, and episcopal resources. So the USCCB is cutting staff in more areas than just Catholic News Service. A total of 21 employees will be laid off. I think this is mostly the Catholic News Service staff. Now, if you look in diocesan newspapers, some of their stories are from Catholic News Service, and I would say a majority of diocesan newspapers run Catholic News Service stories. Also, some of these other organizations, I think Catholic News Agency or the National Catholic Register occasionally run stories from Catholic News Service, so it's going to be pretty significant. Now, if CNS is closing, then what will these diocesan newspapers run? Where will their stories come from? Will it come from the National Catholic Distorter? National Catholic Distorter? Will it come from the Heretical America magazine? Or will it come from Catholic News Agency? I don't know. That's probably more likely that they may get some of their news information from EWTN. And I think a lot of the bishops would be more or less on board with EWTN, what EWTN is reporting. Now, there are a few of the heretic bishops. Did I actually say that? Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. A few of the bishops who reject the Catholic faith, they would probably be more likely to run distorter articles. So who knows? Coalition for Canceled Priests has launched a fundraising campaign to secure a retreat center in Northwest Indiana for priests who have been sidelined by their bishops. The 61-acre property, formerly the Franciscan Lord's Friary, would act not only as a place of refuge for clergy, but also as a liturgical hub for nearby laity. They are seeking $2.1 million. To jumpstart their efforts, members of the coalition were invited by a group of laity in early April to an undisclosed location in the Midwest to discuss their plans. Father John Lovell, as well as Father Scott Duvall, spoke at the event about the property. Duvall also talked about the vetting process that goes into deciding how the coalition assists priests in need. So these are priests that are canceled because they're Catholic. I wonder if this retreat place, will it be a retreat center for other people? It says a liturgical hub. Will they say the Latin Mass? Because if they're just going to say a Novus, then what? Then what's the point? At least in my opinion. Um, I don't know. I mean, these priests are canceled, but they're not going to have jurisdiction. They're not going to have faculties to say Mass in that specific region. Northwest Indiana, that would be. Is it Diocese of Fort Wayne, Indiana, or is it? I know that's like northwest of South Bend. I don't know exactly which diocese this is in, but good luck trying to obtain permission from this local bishop to say Mass, unless the bishop actually invited them in. But they're seeking $2.1 million to basically become an independent Catholic organization that will probably, in all likelihood, not be supported by their bishop or endorsed. In fact, the bishop will probably condemn them. And will they say the Latin Mass? That's my big question. $2.1 million facility. I'm sure there's all kinds of people that are lining up and fired up and saying, "Oh yeah, I want to donate," but what are you donating to? I don't know. I'd be curious to find out more information about this. 10 Chinese underground priests disappear. Quotes. Local authorities have detained at least 10 priests from the underground Catholic community of Baoding in Hebei province since January 2022. There is a quote from Gina Go, ICC. What is this? International. I don't know what this organization is, but this woman says, while Beijing attempts to make believe that the Chinese Catholic Church is thriving, especially after the inkling of the 2018 Chinese Vatican Agreement, the truth is underground Catholics in China continue to suffer. Their leaders are subject to patriotic education and coerced into joining the official patriotic church. Those who fail to comply will become victims of enforced disappearance, like the case of the 10 priests in Baoding. The Vatican needs to intervene and stand up for justice. Oh, I don't know. I want to tell her good luck. Meanwhile, Pope Francis, he says he had some interesting things. He said, I have great respect for Emma Bonino. I don't share her ideas, but she knows Africa better than anyone. In front of this woman, I say chapeau. Bonino had an illegal abortion when she was age 27, and after spending 4 months abroad evading arrest, returned to Italy, where she served a 10-day prison term. Bonino credited her arrest with causing the topic of abortion to take center stage in Italy. She was described in 2017 as being at least partially responsible for over 6 million abortions since 1978, and has personally boasted that she and her group committed 10,141 illegal abortions. Yeah, Pope Francis has great respect for her. Do you have great respect for her? I would say probably not. All right, here we go. Bologna Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, age 66, lost Francis's sympathies because he applies Traditionis Custodes not rigidly enough, reports Andrea Gagliarducci of the Catholic News Agency. I think that's from Italy. Francis will therefore not make him the future president of the Italian bishops. Gagliarducci believes that he will choose Siena Cardinal Augusto Lojudis, age 57, for whom Francis's sympathies remain firm. So Zuppi, actually, he's possibly one of the favorites to be named Pope. And he lost Francis's sympathies because he said, I don't really care about the Latin Mass. I'm not going to restrict it. Just let them do what they want to do. There you go. So, and Zuppi is far from a conservative. Maybe he's a conservative to Francis, but for the rest of us, we would certainly not consider him a conservative. And if he's saying, the Latin Mass bans went too far, what is that saying about Pope Francis? The Archdiocese of Cincinnati posted their synod report in late April. Deacon John Hamoel, the synod coordinator in the archdiocese, expressed gratitude for the time, passion, and commitment of the over 1,700 people that participated in the diocesan listening sessions. The Archdiocese of Cincinnati has roughly 450,000 Catholics, so that equates to less than 1% participation in the synod. So, if you're doing any kind of research or any kind of poll, do you think that 1% participation would achieve an accurate, do you think it would paint an accurate picture of what's going on in the Archdiocese? Probably not. Another frequent comment from parishioners acknowledged in the report was that the marginalized are often ignored. It identifies the incarcerated, the poor, the homeless, the addicted, the elderly, refugees, and immigrants as part of this group. I wonder if anyone was working for the USCCB and just so happened to participate in the synod, because that is exactly what, that is exactly where they get their money. Comments were also made about the ordination of women as a matter of social justice, the need for more women decision makers, the Church's struggles in addressing LMNOP issues, the need to further promote the work of lay-led organizations and parish groups, and more transparency in all areas of church communications. Well, I'm going to say I probably agree with the transparency part, but the rest of them, that's definitely irrelevant, and it certainly demonstrates less than 1% participation in the synod, because if you're asking the Catholics, what do they want? They want Catholic doctrine. And you don't have to pay attention to the rest of the people because they're not Catholic. Okay, Francis slams trads for the 10 millionth time. I'll read you a few quotes just to give you laughs, whatever. He says, I emphasize again that the liturgical life and the study of it should lead to greater church unity, not division. Whoa! Has he ever tried looking in a mirror? That's pretty cringe. When the liturgical life is a bit like a banner of division, there is the stench of the devil there, the deceiver. Wow! So for 50 years, the smoke of Satan has entered the church. Now we're connecting all the dots, and Francis is acknowledging it. He said it's not possible to worship God while making the liturgy a battleground for issues that are not essential, indeed outdated issues, and to take sides, starting with the liturgy, with ideologies that divide the church. Wow! It's not possible to worship God while making the liturgy a battleground for issues that are not essential. What about making the liturgy about issues that are not essential, like active participation? He said, I would like to highlight the danger of liturgical formalism, formalities rather than reality, as we see today in those movements that try to go back and deny the Second Vatican Council itself. The celebration is recitation, something without life, without joy. So there you go. There you go. This is, he's a Vatican II Pope. And I think it's becoming increasingly clear. You can't accept the Second Vatican Council if you believe that the Latin Mass is the true Mass of the Roman Rite. There's something... This is the fulfillment of Vatican II, and I've been saying this over and over. And I hope that people are listening. Thank you for joining me on the live stream, by the way. All right, so did you have any protests at your church? There weren't a whole lot. I'm going to read a few clips of what happened, and I didn't feel like posting a video about this. I think Taylor Marshall posted a video about it, but to me, I think that it was probably a little bit overblown. I only expected any kind of resistance to take place in like large urban areas, cities, and so most Catholic churches wouldn't even be affected. Even in the smaller cities, I didn't expect anything to happen, and didn't seem to be the case. Now, at the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Angels in Los Angeles, several protesters dressed in huge hats and red hooded gowns. A video posted on Twitter captured the incident, which took place at the cathedral's 10 a.m. Sunday Mass. And you can see the video. I posted the links below, and you can see a video clip if you want. It's basically just ushers pushing out the protesters That's really kind of what it. Nothing crazy. Madison, Wisconsin, the headquarters of a pro-life organization, Wisconsin Family Action, were set ablaze in an apparent arson attack. No one was hurt. Graffiti left outside the building said, "If abortions aren't safe, you aren't either." I'll tell you who's not safe. It's people that come into a Catholic church and try to attack. I wouldn't want to be them. I'll tell you that. In Denton, Texas, a pro-life pregnancy center called Loretto House was defaced with graffiti that read, "Not a clinic, and forced pregnancy is murder." And this was the Diocese of Fort Worth in the geographical confines. Bishop Michael Olson responded to the graffiti. In New York City on Saturday, pro-abortion demonstrators rallied in front of the entrance to Old St. Patrick's Cathedral in Lower Manhattan. For safety reasons, police at the scene halted plans for a pro-life procession to a nearby Planned Parenthood abortion clinic, as happens at the church on the first Saturday of the month. So probably for the best. I don't think that it's, I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't want that kind of conflict at this point. We're talking LA, New York City. I don't know, maybe it will come near you, but just be prepared. And Eric Salmon says have your phone ready to video in case anything like that comes up. So have your phone on, set it to silent, whatever. Have your safety, what do I want to say? Have your security devices available. Anyway. Get what I'm saying? If you don't, I don't know what to tell you. All right, finally, Francis calls those against LMNOP a sect. Let's read the news here. Oh yeah, he hasn't responded to the Dubia. Keep this in mind as we're reading. Remember whenever Cardinal Zen went to the Vatican and Francis declined to meet with him as well? All right, well this isn't the first time Pope Francis responded to a request by Father James Martin. On May 5th, Father Martin had written to the Pope in Spanish asking him to answer some questions that he is most commonly asked by LMNOP Catholics and their families. This is on Vatican News' propaganda website, by the way. He received a handwritten response a couple of days afterward that was published in the form of a short interview on Father Martin's website called Outreach. It's supposed to be like a pun almost, like a double meaning, outreach. Anyway, he asked, "What would you say is the most important thing for LMNOP people to know about God?" Pope Francis said, "God is Father and he does not disown any of his children, and the style of God is closeness, mercy, and tenderness. Along this path you will find God." Will you find God in the path of justice? Martin asks, "What would you like LMNOP people to know about the Church?" Pope Francis said, "I would like for them to read the book of the Acts of the Apostles. There they will find the image of the living Church. And after they read the Acts of the Apostles, they can conveniently turn right to the next book, Romans, and read chapter 1 and see what it says about LMNOP people." I really hope that they read that. Pope Francis didn't say that part about Romans, by the way. And then the final question, what do you say to an LMNOP Catholic who has experienced rejection from the Church? Pope Francis said, "I would have them recognize it not as the rejection of the Church, but instead of the people in the Church. The Church is a mother and calls together all her children. Take, for example, the parable of those invited to the feast. The just, the sinners, the rich, and the poor, etc. A selective church, one of pure blood, is not Holy Mother Church, but rather a sect." So he uses a Harry Potter reference, I think, of pure blood. Is that from Harry Potter? So he says, so he implies actually that it is what? Hate the sinner, or hate the sin, love the sinner. Love the sinner, hate the sin, whatever it's called. And actually, the LMNOP people don't believe LMNOP activity is a sin. But he said that this selective church is not Holy Mother Church, but rather a sect. What about a church that's selective in doctrine, meaning exclusive in doctrine? Well, there are churches that are selective in doctrine, right? Like Father James Martin's church. He preaches selective parts of the gospel. Vatican II emphasized selective Bible passages, even cutting a Bible verse in half, because the second half would undermine what it was trying to say. And this is, I'm talking about Nostra Aetate. This is the part where Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Well, Vatican II and Nostra Aetate in their interfaith document they quoted Jesus as saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life. But they didn't talk about the second part because that would directly undermine what they were trying to say. And here, what about the Acts of the Apostles? What about boldly proclaiming Christ? Or is that too much for fraternity? Let's see what we have. Live chat. Thanks for commenting, everyone. Nope. Kansas City Royals fan. Nope. It was pretty quiet at the 8 a.m. TLM low mass, but the couple that takes me home said the parish hired a policeman to watch for all three masses. You can have unpaid volunteer security too, if you know what I'm saying. Maybe not in California or New York, but a lot of other states. Just a thought. I don't know. All right, anyway, everyone, this has been EVTN News. Thank you so much for watching. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.